All right, good afternoon. As you know, in about 44 minutes, and I'm sure they will be on time, the President of Security Council for the month of September, Mr. Sang-Jin Kim, who is the Chargé d'Affaires of the Permanent Mission of the Republic of Korea, will be here to brief you on the program of work. As a reminder, for those of you who are connected by Zoom, there will be no Zoom connection for that briefing, but you will be able to follow it on UN Web TV. Our good friend Sharon Birch, spokesperson for the President of the General Assembly, will be here to brief you tomorrow, which we expect, sadly, to be her last briefing as the representative of the PGA. Over the long weekend, you will have seen that the Secretary General was in Tianjin in China, where he was invited to take part in the Shanghai Cooperation Leaders Summit. Speaking during the Shanghai Cooperation Organization's Plus session yesterday, the Secretary General said that we are moving towards a multipolar world. We need principled leadership to strengthen multilateralism, uphold the rule of law, and deliver for people, as reflected in the Pact for the Future. He added that the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is uniquely positioned to help shape a more peaceful, inclusive, and sustainable future. Turning to the situation in Ukraine, the Secretary General told the leaders of the summit that it is past time for a ceasefire leading to a just, comprehensive, and sustainable peace in line with the UN Charter, international law, and relevant UN resolutions. The Secretary General also reiterated his call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza, an immediate and unconditional release of all hostages, unimpeded, safe, and sustained humanitarian access. We shared those remarks with you. While there, he had several bilateral meetings, including with the President of China, the Secretary General of the Shanghai Cooperation Council, the Prime Minister of Cambodia, and the President of Iran. You will have seen all those readouts that we shared with you during the weekend. He now arrived in Papua New Guinea. Earlier today, he met with the Governor General, Bob Bofeng Dade, as well as the Prime Minister, James Marape. Later in the day, during a press conference with the Prime Minister, the Secretary General said he was honored to be the first UN Secretary General to visit Papua New Guinea and to join in celebrating 50 years of the country's independence. For the past 5 decades, he said, Papua New Guineans have taken on a profound task to weave their breathtaking diversity into one people, one country that leaves no one behind. Papua New Guinea has long led the charge for climate justice, he said, and as we approach the UN Climate Conference in Brazil later this fall, he added that the world must move faster to keep the 1.5-degree limit alive and also to produce a credible path to achieving the 1.3 trillion United States dollars objective decided in Baku during the last climate conference. Tomorrow, the Secretary General will address a special session of Parliament to mark the 50th anniversary of the country's independence. We've shared those remarks with you under embargo. And you should be able to follow those on the UN Web TV if you're up in the middle of the night. You will have seen that over the weekend we issued a statement on Yemen in which the Secretary General strongly condemned the arbitrary detention of UN personnel by the Houthi de facto authorities in Yemen. He further condemned the forced entry into the premises of the World Food Programme, the seizure of UN property, and attempts to enter other UN premises in Sana'a. The total number of UN detained staff at this moment, after this latest action, now stands at least at 18. This is in addition to the 23 colleagues already arbitrarily detained, some since 2021. You will recall that one of our colleagues died while being held in custody by the Houthis, and that took place in February of this year. The Secretary General strongly reiterates his demand for the immediate and unconditional release of all those who have been detained, including all other personnel from the UN, international organizations, NGOs, civil society, and diplomatic missions. Our personnel and that of our partners must never be targeted, they must never be arrested, and they never must be detained while carrying out their duties on behalf of the United Nations. Meanwhile, our special envoy for Yemen, Hans Grunberg, just concluded a visit to Muscat in Oman, where he met with senior Omani officials as well as the Ansar Allah chief negotiator Mohammed Abdel Salam and representatives of the diplomatic community. In these meetings, Mr. Grunberg reiterated his strong condemnation of these detentions, stressing that these detentions, as well as the forced entry into our premises and taking of UN property by Ansar Allah, seriously endangers our ability to operate in Yemen and deliver much-needed assistance to the people of Yemen. He also emphasized that these actions put all UN staff and operations at risk and seriously and underscored the fundamental obligations to respect and protect the safety of our colleagues. Mr. Grunberg also expressed his deep concern over the continuous cycle of hostilities between Ansar Allah and Israel and its repercussions inside Yemen and for the wider region. Turning to Afghanistan, you will have also seen over the weekend we issued a statement which the Secretary General said he is deeply saddened by the devastating loss of life caused by the Sunday's earthquake in the eastern Nangarhar province in Afghanistan. He expressed his solidarity with the people of Afghanistan, extended his sincere condolences to the families and victims, and wished a speedy recovery to those injured. He also said the UN in Afghanistan will spare no efforts to assist people, but noted that current humanitarian funding is insufficient to address the needs. He called for additional resources to be urgently dispatched to respond to the tragedy and crisis at hand. On the ground, our humanitarian colleagues tell us that preliminary reports from the de facto authorities now indicate at least 1,400 people have been killed and more than 3,100 injured. Casualty figures are expected to rise further as search and rescue teams reach affected areas. We have dispatched at least 25 assessment teams to the region to assess the situation. We're already supporting the response by deploying critical items to areas that can be reached. For example, our colleagues at UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, are deploying pre-positioned essential relief items from stockpiles in Kabul. That includes tents, that also includes blankets and solar lamps. Our humanitarian colleagues note that an immediate priority needs to include emergency shelter, critical medical supplies, drinking water, and emergency food assistance. The de facto authorities have launched an immediate response, flying hundreds of medevac cases to regional hospitals for care and clearing blocked roads. They also humanitarian partners are also seeking ways to mobilize additional air assets to reach those in need. Shelter material and medical supplies are running low, and the current funding is insufficient to address all needs, as we've been saying. Our emergency relief coordinator, Tom Fletcher, called for the international community's support to scale up emergency relief efforts. We and our partners are developing an emergency appeal, and we'll keep you posted. Yesterday, the Deputy Emergency Relief Coordinator, Joyce Masuya, released $5 million from the Central Emergency Response Fund to help kickstart our response, and that will be matched by $5 million from the Afghan Humanitarian Fund. Our colleagues note that the earthquake has added death and destruction to a country already facing multiple crises, including severe drought and a return of millions of Afghans from neighboring countries. Our UNHCR colleagues also report that a number of the victims had recently returned from Pakistan, where they had been forcibly returned to Afghanistan. Turning to the situation in Gaza, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs warns that military activities continue in and around Gaza City, but also in the south, taking a heavy toll on civilians, including deaths, injuries, and further displacement. Our colleagues report that people continue to flee, mainly towards the coast, and since August 14th, our partners monitoring population movements have recorded more than 76,000 new displacements. More than 23,000 of these movements were from northern to southern Gaza. Most of the remaining displacement was within Gaza Governorate. OCHA also says that coastal areas in the city are already extremely crowded with tents, forcing some of those fleeing Gaza City to move north to coastal areas near Zikim, although those areas are under displacement orders. Meanwhile, there continues to be daily reports of malnutrition-related deaths in Gaza. Our colleagues from the World Food Program say the situation continues to deteriorate, noting that families without able-bodied members face the highest risk of severe malnutrition. For this reason, last Tuesday, WFP resumed the distribution of digital vouchers following a 5-month pause and have so far reached 22,500 people, prioritizing vulnerable groups, including people with disabilities and female-headed households. We and our partners are also continuing to transport food and other medical supplies to and from the crossings, but the current situations on the ground have not yet allowed us to resume community-based distribution. WFP said violence among crowds and convoys make organized distribution nearly impossible to put civilians and staff at risk. Adding to these difficulties are congestion at entry points and supply shortages. Only a ceasefire will ensure the necessary conditions for a massive response to prevent famine spreading further. During the previous ceasefire, as you know, we reached nearly every single person in the Gaza Strip with life-saving aid, and we can do this again. Meanwhile, OCHA reports the movement of humanitarian teams inside Gaza remains heavily restricted. Between Friday and Monday, about 1 in 3 planned missions were either impeded or outright denied by Israeli authorities. That's 12 out of 37 movements that we coordinate with them. As a result, many missions couldn't be completed. Restrictions also impact the pipeline before it reaches Gaza. Our colleagues leading on logistics say that strict physical inspections by Israeli authorities continue to significantly delay aid clearance at Ashdod port. Meanwhile, yes, I'll leave it at that. Turning to Sudan, first of all, we have a new humanitarian coordinator and resident coordinator for Sudan, and that is Denise Brown, who you will have remembered not too long ago was our resident humanitarian coordinator in Ukraine. She comes to us with quite a lot of experience, as you know, and we congratulate and welcome her. In terms of Sudan, the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs is deeply concerned by reports of the devastating landslide that struck Tarsin village in the Jebel Mara region on the border of Central and South Darfur states. That apparently took place on the 31st of August, and that came after days of very heavy rainfall. According to our humanitarian partners, it is difficult to assess the full scale of the incident or confirm the exact death toll, as the impacted area is extremely hard to reach. Preliminary reports from local sources estimate the death toll to be about 1,000 people. Our humanitarian partners, though, have reported significantly lower numbers. An interagency assessment will seek to provide verified figures in the coming days. In a message of condolences and solidarity, our acting humanitarian coordinator in Sudan, Luca Renda, today said we and our humanitarian partners are mobilizing to provide support to people impacted by the landslide. OCHA is also coordinated with our partners in the areas to assess needs and mount a response. Although Jebel Mara is one of Sudan's most remote and inaccessible regions, it is hosting people displaced by the ongoing conflict in other parts of the country, including those who fled North Darfur state. Our humanitarian partners also note that heavy rains have caused widespread damage and displacement elsewhere in Sudan. In Gadaref state, more than 300 people were displaced over the weekend when floods hit Bazora and Abu Nal villages. That's what the International Organization for Migration is telling us. In South Darfur, torrential rains displaced 750 people in Safia and destroyed more than 100 homes on August 31st. Impacted communities urgently need humanitarian assistance, including water, sanitation, hygiene services, emergency shelter, and many household items. Meanwhile, our humanitarian colleagues are also gravely concerned by the humanitarian situation in El Fasher. Continued shelling has reportedly killed at least 7 civilians and wounding more than 70 others in recent days. The absence of safe passage for those wishing to flee the violence continues to trap civilians in the besieged city. Recent satellite image reportedly shows more than 30 kilometers of earthen walls surrounded the city, further restricting the movement of civilians. A reminder that the Secretary General has called for an immediate ceasefire around El Fasher, stressing that civilians must be protected, safe passage must be guaranteed, and humanitarian aid must be allowed in without delay and without obstruction. And our colleagues at the UN Humanitarian Air Service, which, as you know, is operated by the World Food Program, tells us they had to end their fixed-wing air service in Nigeria last week due to lack of funding. For 9 years, The service has transported humanitarian staff, medical supplies, and critical cargo to and from the epicenter of the crisis in Borno and Yobe states, in a country that has experienced unending conflict for the past 16 years of conflict. Road transport remains extremely dangerous, and air transport is essential. In 2024, UNHAS flights had carried more than 9,000 passengers. Already this year, 4,500 humanitarian staff had relied on the service to reach affected areas. UNHAS cannot continue without funding. $5.4 million is needed to remain operational for the next 6 months. Without this funding, the humanitarian response in the Northeast risks being cut off from the very people it needs to serve. Bear with me, a couple more notes. Turning to Myanmar, a report published today by the UN Human Rights Office shows that between 2021 military coup and August 20th of this year, credible sources have verified the killings of some 7,100 people by the military. According to the report, a third of them were women and children. Human Rights Office adds that at least 29,560 people have been arrested on political grounds. More than 22,000 remain in detention without respect for a fair trial and judicial guarantees in military-controlled courts. Since the escalation of hostilities in Rakhine, hundreds of thousands more people have been displaced. The UN, we estimate that some 150,000 Rohingyas have fled to Bangladesh since November of 2023, joining nearly 1 million refugees already staying there. And another resident coordinator I wanted to announce, and that's Arnild Spence of Norway, who assumes her role as the resident coordinator in Bosnia-Herzegovina. She brings to the job almost 30 years of experience. Edie, speaking of slightly over 30 years of experience.
Slightly.
Slightly.
Thank you, Steph. A couple of follow-ups. First, did the Houthis give any reason why they sacked the UN offices and arrested, detained so many UN staff?
Look, first of all, UN staff should not be detained. What the reporting seems to indicate some sort of security issues, but our staff, regardless of what is going on, should be protected. UN premises cannot be entered in that manner.
Secondly, during the meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Council, did the Secretary General make any attempt to meet the Russian President, Vladimir Putin?
There was no specific bilateral setup.
And thirdly, there are rumors floating around that because of the Trump administration's ban on Palestinians, including President Abbas, from coming to the high-level General Assembly meeting at the end of the month, that the UN might move either the meeting or the high-level segment on a two-state solution to Geneva.
Look, I have nothing to share with you officially. I mean, rumors are rumors, but obviously I think that the participation of a senior Palestinian delegation to that conference seems to me essential for the topic that will be discussed. Deji.
Yes, a follow-up on that question. Has the UN reached out for U.S. government to a further clarification of this policy?
I know we are reaching our colleagues are reaching out to the State Department. I don't have an update on the contacts as of yet. Okay.
During the Secretary General's meeting with the Iranian president in Tianjin, we all read the note. But have they talked about recent development of the imposing of sanctions by European countries?
Look, the discussion was focused on regional developments, obviously on the nuclear issues, but I'm not going to give you more detail than what was in the readout.
Okay, can you remind us what is the position for UN on this latest development, the reimpose of snapback sanctions?
Well, I think I've read it out twice last week, so usually when I read out something a third time, I get it wrong. Abdelhamid, then Michelle. Sorry.
Thank you, Steph. There are news about Lazzarini stepping down. Can you confirm? Do you have
He's not stepping down. I think his mandate's coming to an end at the in next early-ish next year.
Is the SG now considering other candidates?
Well, obviously, somebody will be appointed to succeed him. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. The second thing, Dalal Hawamda is a 14-year-old girl near Hebron in the village of As-Samua. Settlers ran over her, almost killed her. She's in critical condition. Such a crime, why doesn't come in the briefing?
I have not seen that specific report, but we'll look into it. Michelle.
Sorry, just clarifying, while the SG was in China, he didn't cross over with Kim Jong-un, did he?
No, they were not there in China at the same time. Sorry, Linda, and then we'll go.
Thank you, Steph. Apropos of Yemen, what is the UN's role? Can you just shed some light in terms of what the UN's role is in the non-Houthi controlled areas of Yemen where, you know,
well, I mean, the UN's role is primarily, in Yemen, is probably humanitarian, a country where people, regardless of where they live, face tremendous humanitarian challenges.
So there's a big presence in the south, the east, the other parts of the country as well?
Yep.
Thank you.
Zara.
Hi, Steph. Iran, Russia, and China, in a letter to the Security Council and the Secretary General, have stated that the attempt by the 3 European countries to trigger the snapback mechanism violates the provision of the JCPOA and Resolution 2231, as the dispute resolution mechanism under JCPOA haven't yet been fully exhausted. They have called for the move to be considered null and void. What is the Secretary General's position on this matter?
Well, that will be an issue for the Security Council to decide. This, as you know, the UN is not a party to the JCPOA. The Secretary General's message is for Iran and for the countries parties to JCPOA to use this window of opportunity to intensify their diplomacy. Yes, please.
A follow-up on Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. During his statement in Tianjin, the Secretary General says we are moving towards a multipolar world, and the SCO is also now the world's largest regional organization by population and geography. How does the UN view this expansion of SCO influence in global governance?
Well, you know, the Secretary General has been saying for quite some time that we're moving into a very much a multipolar world. He has also very publicly said that it is important for the UN to work with the various groupings that we are seeing, whether it's the SCO, the G20, CARICOM, I mean, all of the African Union. This is all part of the kind of the layered multilateralism that the Secretary General often speaks about. Alex, then Stephane.
Thanks, Steph. I have a follow-up on Yemen. You've mentioned the seizure of UN property. Could you please be more specific, like what we're talking about?
My understanding is I think there was some electronic equipment taken.
All right, thank you.
Stefano.
Thank you. The world leading association of genocide scholars have declared that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Is the Secretary General aware of this?
Yes.
And what does he think?
Look, it's a very prominent and serious organization. It doesn't change our position, which I've stated and restated when it comes to the Secretary General using the term genocide. This doesn't stop us almost every single day in condemning and decrying what we are seeing taking place in Gaza.
And then another question. Apparently, France has put its hospital on alert for a war that could start by March 2026. Is the Secretary General aware of this?
I have
and
no
what does
clue
he
what
think?
you're talking about, Stephano, but I'm happy to look into it. Deji.
Yeah, just a very quick question. Do we know the nationals of those who detained in Yemen?
They are local staff, national staff. They are national staff. There is an additional person who is an international, which would bring us to 19, who we hope will be released today, if not already done so. But whether national or international, they should all be released immediately. Okay. I'm sure our friends from the Republic of Korea will be here in 17 minutes, 18 minutes.